Now we are learning new information. Officials at both the Regional Jail Authority and the Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety say they consider the escape of that inmate a grave and unacceptable breach, and they are investigating this as police continue looking for Todd Boyes of Caldwell, Ohio, an inmate who escaped from the South Central Regional Jail in Kanawha County. He is considered armed and dangerous and should not be approached. If you see him, call 911. Boyes was set to be sentenced this morning on charges from a police pursuit back in February, which ended with him ramming his vehicle into a Charleston police cruiser, then being shot in the hand. Here's what we've learned within the last hour or so. The Director of Communications for the Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety, Lawrence Messina, finally releasing information on this, saying Boyes left the facility at 5:50 Wednesday morning. The escape went unnoticed for 43 hours. He says 3 formal end-of-shift head counts, as well as 2 informal overnight counts, failed to alert jail staff of Boyes' disappearance. It was not revealed that Boyes was missing until a head count at 7 last night, but it took another 6 hours to alert state police and the public. Messina says there is an investigation into whether those head counts were done properly. Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin is live at the South Central Regional Jail tonight and has exclusive information from someone who says they reported the escape to correctional officers Wednesday night, but no action was taken. Leslie?
Callie, this story certainly continues to get more strange by the minute, and with nearly a 2-day head start on law enforcement, state police say that Boyes could be anywhere. But I just spoke exclusively with Charleston lawyer Kevin Davis. Davis tells me he got a frantic call from one of his clients here at the jail on Wednesday morning that client needed to speak with him in a life or death situation, is how he described it. Davis met with his client Wednesday evening and says he was informed that a man named Todd, who had had his fingers shot off, had escaped that morning and no one knew. Davis says his client was fearful of retaliation within the jail and within his pod, and he wanted him to report it. So Davis says that's what he did. He says he wrote the information on a note, handed it to a correctional officer who says was accompanied by 2 other female COs. He says he watched that CO read the note and put it in his pocket.
It upsets me because I got kids in the area, and of course I want the public to stay safe, and if they're not doing their job and they're not making sure people don't escape, especially if they're dangerous, armed and dangerous, I mean, it's a real concern of mine. That's the reason why, even after talking to one of my clients where the attorney-client privilege applies, it was one of those situations where I had to let the jail know that somebody had escaped from Charlie 5. Apparently did nothing.
That Charlie 5 is the pod that Boyes was staying in with Davis's client. Davis says that he even talked to his client on a recorded line that will be able to back up the story that correctional officers were informed days before state police and the public were notified. Again, this is an ongoing investigation. State officials releasing limited details, but right now Boyes still on the run. For now, reporting live at the South Central Regional Jail, Leslie Rubin, Eyewitness News.
First on Fox and breaking tonight, the mother of the inmate who escaped from the South Central Regional Jail last week has now been arrested.
Her name is Robin Helton. Her son is Todd Boyes. He's the man that escaped from the South Central Regional Jail. She has now been officially charged. Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin is live at Kanawha County Magistrate Court with further details tonight. Leslie?
Rick, we now know that Robin Helton drove her son to Texas and gave him $2,000 that helped in his escape, and this is how it went down. State police say that Boyes called his mother, Robin Helton, from the Walmart located there at Southridge, just below the South Central Regional Jail. She got there around 7:45 and picked him up at a nearby McDonald's. After getting in the car, Boyes is said to have informed his mother that he had just escaped the jail and needed her help fleeing the state. During a telephone call with state police and United States Marshals, Helton allegedly admitted that she agreed to assist Boyes. Helton further admitted to giving Boyes $2,000 and driving him to Beaumont, Texas. Now, while speaking with a state police trooper, Helton stated, quote, I would do it again because he is my son. Todd Boyes now in custody in the Webb County Jail in Laredo, Texas. He was caught physically trying to swim the river to Mexico from Laredo. He was caught by U.S. Border Patrol agents. That was early Sunday morning. He escaped the South Central Regional Jail just before 6 o'clock on Wednesday morning. It was not noticed that he was gone until almost 43 hours later. Still a massive investigation going on there now at the South Central Regional Jail. 4 jail guards are on unpaid leave, and right now we don't know who they are and what they did or didn't do that helped in that escape. We do know, though, that 4 are on leave right now. No guards have been charged. Robin Helton is the only person that is facing charges right now in connection with that escape. We do know also that Boyes is going to be back in court for an extradition hearing in Texas on Thursday morning. He will then be brought back to West Virginia to face new escape charges and be taken back to jail while he awaits sentencing on charges connected with a Charleston police chase in which a Charleston police corporal actually was injured, and he ended up getting shot in the hand. This is still a very developing story, and we are still asking those questions of state regional jail officials about how this happened and what the oversight was that led to his escape. We're going to keep you updated on WCHSTV.com, but for now, reporting live at Kanawha County Magistrate Court, Leslie Rubin, Eyewitness News.
We are continuing to follow another incident within the regional jail system. Todd Boyes had to clear 4 secure doors before walking out the front door of the South Central Regional Jail.
They're still trying to figure out how he did it. He did go unnoticed for almost 2 full days. He was then caught trying to swim across the border into Mexico. Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin now focusing on how he was able to escape in the first place, with 4 corrections officers remaining on unpaid leave tonight.
Just before 1 o'clock Friday morning, an alert to law enforcement that Todd Boyes has escaped.
We're all very familiar with him. Did he just get away, or how long has this been?
No, sir. Approximately 36 hours ago.
Frustration filling the airwaves as Charleston police realize it's someone they know all too well, originally charged with trying to kill one of their officers in a police chase.
Whoever was shooting from the creek, well, he shot my finger off first.
Place the call to the prosecutor's office.
New information revealed today. Boyes, a violent inmate facing 20 years in prison, made his way through 4 secure doors from his cell to the front door of the South Central Regional Jail.
Multiple individuals would have had control of those doors as long as they were properly secured.
4 correctional officers on unpaid leave, but questions over exactly what they did or didn't do in the hours leading up to and following his escape remain unanswered.
It really is way too soon to determine whether any of these officers bear responsibility regarding this escape.
Boyes' mother, Robin Helton, sitting now in the same jail her son escaped from.
Is there anything you want to say?
State troopers saying she picked him up about 2 hours after his escape and agreed to help him flee the state, driving him to Beaumont, Texas, and giving him $2,000 before he was captured trying to swim his way to Mexico.
This is a glaring and unacceptable breach.
5 head counts should have been conducted between the time he walked out of the door and when he was discovered missing. Lack of staffing and overcrowding could have played a role, but officials say it's just too soon to tell.
Leslie Rubin reporting for us tonight. Boyes has an extradition hearing on Thursday once he's brought back to the state. They hope to have his sentencing hearing as soon as possible to move him quickly to Mount Olive Correctional Center.
New information tonight, a 5th correctional officer has been suspended without pay after an inmate walked out of the South Central Regional Jail last week. A spokesperson for the Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety also says that the Prime Care, the medical services provider for the jails, has fired an employee assigned to South Central as part of its own review prompted by the escape. Inmate Todd Boyes disguised himself as a civilian and escaped last Wednesday. His disappearance wasn't noticed, though, for almost 2 full days. He was eventually captured trying to swim from Texas to Mexico. Boyes is currently awaiting an extradition hearing in Laredo, Texas. The escape shining an even brighter light on what's been called a crisis in the regional jails involving correctional officer pay and shortage. Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin exclusively toured the Western Regional Jail today as lawmakers are getting a first-hand look at those conditions. Leslie.
Callie, over the last several weeks, lawmakers have been touring the 10 regional jails across the state in an effort to see the conditions inside for themselves. This coming as some are calling for raises for correctional officers as a first step in addressing several major issues inside the jails, including extremely long hours, a major shortage of guards, and overcrowding.
We can't afford not to take care of this.
A crisis behind these walls and at every regional jail in the state as hundreds of correctional officer positions remain empty.
They can't afford to spend 16 hours a day, 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week at a facility away from their family to not make enough money to survive on.
With starting salaries less than $25,000 a year, the shortage is endangering jail staff, inmates, and the public.
But until you actually come in here and see the human aspect of it, the correction officers, the inmates, and the conditions, it's hard to really understand. 5
delegates toured the Western Regional Jail Friday. Cameras were not allowed inside, but Executive Director David Farmer told the group that there were 708 inmates housed here today, with 18 correctional officers on staff, a ratio of about 1 guard for every 39 inmates. 25% of their staff is vacant.
It's almost a matter of survival once you walk through these doors.
Miller says it costs about $15,000 to train, certify, and place a correctional officer in the jail, but the turnover is costing even more.
With the amount of turnover they had, it's about $4 million that West Virginia has lost simply because we weren't paying enough. That could still be here and still protecting the citizens.
The issue likely to be a hot topic in the 2018 session, with the regional jail authority still reeling the escape of a violent inmate that went unnoticed for more than 40 hours.
I'm hopeful with the various things that have occurred in this year, and our economy is looking better, that we will have more revenue and can deal with the issue.
Delegate Miller says an eye-opening concern that he heard in the north central part of the state was that they were losing workers to a nearby Target who had just increased their hourly rate. Reporting live in the studio, Leslie Rubin, Eyewitness News.
Story is new here tonight at 6. We are continuing to ask questions about the jail escape of Todd Boys.
And tonight, Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin is the only reporter who's seen the video of Boys walking out of the South Central Regional Jail. Right now, Boys is still in Texas, awaiting extradition back to West Virginia, where he'll face new charges for the escape and be sentenced on charges relating to a police chase where he rammed an officer's cruiser and had his fingers shot off. Meanwhile, his mother and alleged accomplice, Robin Helton, has been freed on bond after turning herself in and admitting she drove him to Texas, where he was later caught trying to swim across the border to Mexico. The state is staying tight-lipped about the investigation into Boys' escape and refuses to release the names of the 5 correctional officers who were suspended. Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin has been continuing to press jail officials for answers and joins us now with what she's uncovered. Leslie?
Whitney, it's been almost 5 weeks since this investigation started, and we're told it has no timeline on when it can be completed. It's still a mystery how Boys was able to carry out the escape and what role those 5 suspended correctional officers played in it. More than a month after inmate Todd Boys pulled off the first jailbreak from South Central in more than 20 years, and the 5 suspended correctional officers' identities remain a mystery. In a Freedom of Information Act request filed by Eyewitness News, we requested their names, but Executive Director David Farmer denied their release, citing the continuing investigation, adding they won't be made public until it's over. We also requested the release of any video from inside or outside the jail from the morning of October 25th, the day Boys was able to obtain civilian clothes and walk out of the jail undetected for almost 2 full days. The state Supreme Court recently ruled that interior videos from the jail are exempt from FOIA, believing they could be used to form an escape or to hurt someone inside the jail. I was permitted to view but not record 2 short clips of Boys in the lobby area at 5:50 that morning. He casually walked alone around a metal detector past an unmanned front office window to freedom. There are cameras in the parking lot, but I was told they do not record. The jail did release a list of 30 inmates who were in Boys' section the day of the escape, including that his cellmate was Carl McGee, a man accused of killing a woman in Charleston by setting her on fire. The evening after the escape, one of those inmates allegedly told his lawyer about what had happened. That lawyer claims he relayed the information via note to a correctional officer, and nothing was done. Today, we were told the governor's office has filed extradition paperwork with Texas officials, and they are waiting to hear back from them to determine when boys will be brought back. We are continuing to try and get you answers in this case, and we'll keep you updated. Reporting live in the studio, Leslie Rubin, Eyewitness News.
But first, here at 6, those 3 correctional officers facing charges tonight. They are among the 5 guards suspended without pay from the South Central Regional Jail after Todd Boyes walked out of that facility. Boyes escaped on October 25th. He was gone for 36 hours before he was reported missing. On October 29th, Boyes was captured in Texas while trying to swim into Mexico. He's still in Texas, in jail, fighting extradition back here to West Virginia. Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin has been following this story since it broke. She talked with several of those correctional officers arrested today.
She's live now with why they say their working conditions are partly to blame for what happened. Leslie?
That spotlight has been shown recently on the jails because of their severe shortage of correctional officers and low pay for those who do take on the job. Tonight, we're learning more about the chain of events that happened, all working in Todd Boyes' favor as he made the first jailbreak from the facility in more than 20 years.
I'm sorry for the jail because we're losing the best employees that ever walked in that front door.
Allison Bryant in tears after being released on bond, charged with a misdemeanor of permitting escape.
A lot of people are out of work because of administration problem, not our problem.
Troopers don't think she helped Todd Boyes escape from the facility, but they do say she was in charge of making sure the section Boyes was in was locked at all times.
We're expected to look over 600 inmates with less than 4 hours of sleep, working a 16-hour shift before.
Jordan Toller says he wasn't even there when Boyes escaped.
He was gone before I even got there. I didn't work the day before or the day after.
But troopers say he went to get Boyes for a physical the afternoon after his escape and came back with a form that Boyes had refused to consent to treatment, when in reality, Boyes wasn't there at all.
I signed the paper because I couldn't get him to answer whenever I yelled for his name in the section. He didn't come, so that's what I thought I needed to do. I was never told it otherwise. That's how you don't do it, or that is how you do it. So that's how everybody else does it, so that's how I did it.
Pamela McNeely was the only one not to make a comment. She's accused of letting Boyes out of the jail without any identification, telling troopers she thought he was a counselor leaving the jail. Bryant says the officer shortage, lack of training, long hours, and little pay all came together for the perfect storm.
We're supposed to have 100+ officers working, but only 24.
Reality setting in.
I'm going to be homeless next month because I don't have a job now.
As a clearer picture is painted of what did and didn't happen, allowing a violent criminal to simply walk away. Jail officials have refused to release any information about the internal investigation. This information today only becoming available through public court documents. Those 3 correctional officers, they were all released on PR bonds. It's not clear yet what will happen to the other 2 officers who were suspended. Reporting live in the studio, Leslie Rubin, Eyewitness News.
For the first time since his extradition from Texas, Todd Boyes was back in a West Virginia courtroom today following his brazen escape from the South Central Regional Jail, which has unleashed a firestorm of controversy. Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin has more from inside the courtroom as he was sentenced for the crimes that landed him in jail to begin with.
Flanked by extra security and wearing a red jumpsuit, marking him as a high-risk escape inmate, we're getting our first look at the now infamous Todd Boyes.
Someone so bent on destruction that the lives of citizens and the lives of police officers mean nothing to him.
Boyes emotionless through a sentencing hearing for a police chase that he was supposed to have more than a month ago. He was due in court the day before he was discovered missing from the South Central Regional Jail, an escape that went unnoticed for 36 hours.
He's a serious drug addict. That's really the basis of all of his problems. He's a drug addict.
His lawyer not left with much of a defense after the series of events that's unfolded since Boyes made his way to West Virginia in February, following a string of armed carjackings in Ohio. Police here spotting him in a stolen truck before leading them on a chase that ended with him being shot and a Charleston police officer hurt after he rammed her cruiser. Body camera video capturing his takedown.
Whoever was shooting from the creek Well, he shot my finger off first.
The state asked for the max, and that's what they got. Judge Todd Kaufman sentencing him to a combined total of 5 to 20 years in prison.
He had a fairly extensive criminal history. The crimes he committed were serious. The escape didn't help any, but I wouldn't say that it was the sole factor that determined the consecutive nature of his sentence.
DOC officers were on hand to immediately take him to Mount Olive, a maximum security prison. But this isn't the last we'll see of him, as his escape charge is still playing out in court. In Charleston, Leslie Rubin, Eyewitness News.
If Boys is found guilty of the escape, he could face an additional sentence of not more than 5 years in prison.
And we begin with breaking news. Governor Jim Justice has issued an executive order saying the state's correctional centers are in crisis.
This stems from the massive staff shortages at the regional jails, juvenile centers, and prisons all across West Virginia. Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin is live tonight to explain. Leslie?
The order was signed by Justice last Friday, but for whatever reason has not been publicly announced by the governor's office. It outlines the staffing problems at the correctional centers, saying the lack of proper supervision of those incarcerated is a danger to the public, staff, and the prisoners themselves. Justice says in the order that the excessive amounts of overtime are not conducive to safe working practices and environments. Justice also writes that it is imperative to properly staff and control the facilities until there is proper legislation and staffing to provide a safe environment, that a state of emergency exists. This order gives the Secretary of Military Affairs and Public Safety, Jeff Sandy, the power to use the National Guard to maximize staffing at the facilities. We have reached out to the governor's office for comment, but have not heard back. In a release late this evening, Justice did not mention this order, but did say he was allowing correctional officers to carry over leave from this year to 2018, since they have been required to work so much overtime. Reporting live in the studio, Leslie Rubin, Eyewitness News.